Alex Conant is the former communications director for Senator Marco Rubio and a partner at Firehouse Strategies. Good enough to now join us from Washington. And Alex, again, Al Smith dinner, it is a political tradition to see the two candidates engaging in what is often self-deprecation, if nothing else, and perhaps taking some shots at one another. Though I suppose, considering the election season we have seen to this point, perhaps we shouldn't have been so surprised.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what everyone was expecting. If anything, I think they were more gracious than people were probably expecting, given the harshness of the three debates that we just watched. I mean, they didn't even shake hands at the last two debates. They did shake hands last night, which I suppose is a step forward in terms of civility. And I know Cardinal Dolan said this morning that the two of them did exchange some very nice pleasantries behind the scenes. I think just as an American, you know, at the end of the day, you want our candidates to respect each other, to like each other. And, you know, ultimately, when the election is over, to work together on what's best for the country.
You mentioned that, again, Cardinal Dolan did say that Donald Trump said to Hillary Clinton that she was a tough and talented woman, and that she did, by way of response, say, regardless of what happens, we're going to have to work together here. Also, making news in the last 24 hours, Alex, reports that Donald Trump's national political director, Jim Murphy, has left the campaign. This is a high-level exit, 18 days out. What do you make of it?
Well, I read those same reports, and he said he was leaving for personal reasons, so I don't want to read too much into it. Obviously, this has been a very difficult campaign for Donald Trump and for his staff and his supporters. He's trailing in the polls. He's on a trajectory to lose, it would appear, in November. And I know that presidential campaigns are grueling, and losing presidential campaigns are even more grueling. So I can't speak to this one departure, but I have a lot of sympathy, a lot of empathy for anyone currently working on the Trump campaign. It cannot be the happiest of experiences, to say the least, at this point.
Certainly, his suggestions have now been made in the last week, to be sure, that advisors close to the candidate have wanted him to stop talking and really attacking the legitimacy of the American electoral process. It is something that Donald Trump has done repeatedly and in an amplified fashion of late. He's invoked Bush v. Gore in 2000 and has reserved his right to, again, challenge the outcome of the November election. By way of strategy, then, Alex, what do you make of it?
Well, it's just common sense. I mean, he should be talking about the issues where the majority of the country agrees with him. I think the first 20 or 30 minutes of the debate on Wednesday night where he was talking about the issues. He was talking about the Supreme Court. He was talking about abortion. He was talking about the Second Amendment. I think those were the best 20 or 30 minutes of the entire campaign for Donald Trump. I think that's what he should be focusing on. Instead, he keeps going off on these tangents, talking about whether or not he's going to respect the results of the election. Save that for after the election. I mean, he's got 18 days now to make the case for why he should be the next president of the United States. That's what he needs to spend every moment talking about. If he's talking about anything other than that, it's lost time, and it's bad for him.
I want to ask you about your former boss, specifically President Obama, who called him out yesterday for disavowing some of Donald Trump's comments while still saying that he will ultimately support him. I want to just play a bit of it, get your reaction on the other side.
Marco Rubio said this was a dangerous con artist who spent a career sticking it to working people. Now, that begs the question, since we're in Florida, why does Marco Rubio still plan to vote for Donald Trump? Why is he supporting Donald Trump?
What do you make of the remarks?
Well, I think it was interesting on a couple of levels. For one thing, Barack Obama went down to Florida and he didn't say a single nice thing about the Democrat that's running to replace Marco Rubio. Marco continues to lead in every single poll in Florida, despite Hillary Clinton also leading in polls in Florida, but he's significantly outperforming the Republican. And the Democrat, who was one of the Democrats' top recruits in Florida, they have since the National Party has pulled out all of the funding for him. So Marco has a big financial lead going into the final weeks. He has a lead in the polls going into the final weeks. Everyone in Florida agreed that he won their first and so far only debate last week or earlier this week in Florida. So he's on a very good trajectory. I think Barack Obama, obviously Hillary Clinton cannot help Patrick Murphy because she has so many problems of her own in terms of her own unfavorable ratings. Barack Obama, if he's going to helicopter into South Florida and take some shots at Marco and then leave, I don't think that's going to have a big impact on the race. If anything, I can tell you really helps Marco Rubio's fundraising because it really energizes our supporters when they see something like that happen.
You know, you mentioned the numbers as they regard Marco Rubio and his challenger Patrick Murphy. The current polls, though, do have Murphy within the margin of error. We're looking at it right now among likely Florida voters, 49 to 47%, Marco Rubio in the lead. We're also seeing other races, hotly contested ones, such as the one in New Hampshire, where Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte is now trailing her Democratic opponent. We're seeing surrogates such as Michelle Obama making appearances, as she did yesterday, in a historically red state like Arizona. Do you see a concerted push now and real belief, perhaps, by Democrats and the Clinton campaign that they can really expand the map here?
Well, of course, the National Democrats are pushing, especially on the Senate races. But the fact of the matter is they've functionally pulled out of Florida. They canceled all their fundraising down there. They've seen the internal numbers, the same internal numbers that I've seen that show Marco with a healthy lead. Every poll, I should say, shows Marco with a lead. You mentioned New Hampshire. The one poll that you just referenced was clearly an outlier. Every single poll, including polls done subsequent to that one, have shown it a margin of error race. I think that's going to be very close to the end, but I think Kelly Ayotte, based on her record of service to New Hampshire over the last 6 years, is well positioned to win that race. And of course, Arizona, John McCain is going to win re-election in Arizona. The National Democrats, Obama, Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, they would love to put Arizona in play in terms of Trump. I think it is probably going to be competitive, in part because Trump is underperforming what a generic Republican should be doing, not just in Florida, or not just in Arizona, but everywhere. I mean, everywhere, in almost every state in the country, I think Trump is going to underperform. It's why he's on his trajectory to lose, quite frankly.
An interesting, Alex, I'll get you out here on this one. Donald Trump has, while making the case for a rigged election, has certainly perhaps done harm to another line of attack that was presented to him. Of course, the daily dumps by WikiLeaks. Interestingly, though, Marco Rubio really broke from the fold, saying that he would not discuss any information that was learned or gleaned solely from the WikiLeaks releases, saying, this time it's Democrats, but next time it could be us. What do you make of that decision?
Well, I thought it was a bold move by my former boss, by Marco Rubio, to make that to say that publicly. He sits on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He sits on the Senate's Intelligence Committee, so he understands these issues very well. He understands the threat of cyber espionage, and so I don't have anything to add to what he said, other than he felt very strongly that things that foreign governments, if they're trying to meddle in our elections, we as a Republican should not indulge them.
Alex Conant, as always, very much appreciate the insights today.
Hey, thanks, Josh.